Hi, here we are again a year later. Starting from 7.3, Liferay adopted a rolling release policy. New features are introduced progressively, step by step, GA after GA, and improved using also community feedback. In quarter 3 of the year, all the new features are consolidated into a new Community Edition GA and in a DXP release. From July 2020, we have had different releases. 7.3 DXP has been released in October, as promised. After that, we worked hard to define and improve and implement the new features coming on 7.4. This takes more time than planned, so in March we released a new Community Edition GA and DXP Service Pack 1. And then, in April, we have 7.4. But before to focus on 7.4, I want to share two important timelines, external of Liferay. The first one is related to a tool, a product, that helped to understand the power of Internet, the potential of the browser as user application interface, the importance of the front-end experience, but also the risk to delegate too much logic to the client on the client side, and some big fails about the balance between experience and security. Thank you, Flash. The second timeline is about a tireless companion or advocate of our sleepless nights. Fortunately, both Internet Explorer 11 and Edge Legacy will no more supported by Microsoft and will no more be compatible with Microsoft Web products. I hope all the products will revoke Internet Explorer support shortly, like Liferay with 7.4. Goodbye, Internet Explorer. I won't miss you. Okay, let's focus again on Liferay. This time the source artifact is fat than the binary distribution. It contains some binary elements, some compilation elements like classes, jars, and node modules used by the compilation. My suggestion is to get the sources directly from GitHub using the shallow clone. I know that the sources are always available online. Some of you maybe prefer to access it online, but I prefer to have it locally attached to my Eclipse to be able to explore and to search it as I want and when I need. One lesson we learned with 6.2 is to reduce the portal overload at runtime, removing avoidable tasks. Describing style sheet using SAS is powerful. Since 7.0, SAS compilation is made at build time to have final CSS already available inside the deployable artifact. Now the process was simplified and uses Dart SAS, a standard about SAS compilation. You know, when you set up a Liferay DXP installation, there are some configuration to do. For example, it's preferable to disable filters related to functionality you don't use, or functionality like strip or gzip. You could delegate to other elements of the architecture, like a reverse proxy, for example. For the portal point of view, JavaScript minification is a task that could be costly and tricky. The idea is to deprecate it at runtime and do all the minification activity at build time. At build time, you could choose to have the original JavaScript with no minification or the minified version. Inside the document and media library, you could upload every kind of file. For the no format, Liferay is able to generate thumbnails to help you to identify the file, to visually identify the content of the file. For an image, it's simple, but for other format, it's not so simple. For the PDF, the thumbnail is the first page of the document, exported as PNG, rendered in background as a PNG file. But we also have all the pages exported as PNG to allow document content to be consumed, previewed without downloading directly from the browser. One thing people forget is to set up ImageMagick for these tasks. ImageMagick is more powerful than embedded PDF box and does not use JVM resources. People also forget to set some properties to tune the space used by these previews. Also for the video, you could still use Sagler to generate the preview and the thumbnail, but it is deprecated. 7.4 integrates FFmpeg, the Swiss knife for video processing, the tool for video processing. Let me show you. The first thing you have to do is to enable FFmpeg in your Liferay installation. I have already done it. Of course, to use FFmpeg, you have to install the tool in your system and make the tool visible in the path. Then, when you go back to the document and media library and upload a video file, Liferay use fork processor that use FFmpeg to extract the thumbnails and to re-encode the video to ensure that it could be consumed. It can be consumed by the browser, on the browser. For document and media, we have other interesting news. The first one is about a new document type suitable to manage a video hosted in external platform like YouTube, Vimeo, or Facebook. This feature helps editors to use external video like in a more native way, like the local one. Let me choose a video from the Liferay DevCom. You have only to pass the URL, and for the supported type, you have the video in Liferay. Using the feature, external video are integrated with all the DXP frameworks. You could set up a page template, you could categorize it, you could assign using a related asset with related asset, or define permissions. Obviously, you are defining permission on the shortcut, the video shortcut to the external video inside Liferay. You not modify the permission of the video in the original external platform. Another good thing in document and media is the promotion of file name as first level citizen. In previous release, file name was used only in background when you upload a file. Now you have the title and the file name. And you could use both. Another good news is about metadata. While in 7.3 document type could use the new form engine, but the old one were still the default one, now in 7.4 we have all the power of the form engine. We can compose our document template in a more empowered way, not only for the field type, but also drag and drop doesn't working, but okay. Not only define the document type, but also when you use it. The advantage of having the new form engine is that it's more simple to extend the fields library. You can create a new field using a bundle that consumes simple dependencies and simple frameworks. For document and media, you could use metadata sets to create complex field definition and reuse it on different document types. For example, you could use metadata set to define customer reference or invoice reference and use in document types involved about customer or invoices reference. Form engine become the standard also for web content structure. In web content structure, we doesn't have metadata sets, but the same feature, create a complex field, could be done using field sets. With field sets, we can join together different fields, name it, and then reuse this element composing a structure and reuse it for different structure. One missing features most requested by the community is the possibility inside form to allow anonymous users to upload a file. While the setup of the field is simple, you drag and activate the functionality, there are some security and performance aspects to consider. Liferay tries to limit performance impacts with some restrictions on the type of file user could upload, the size of the file, or the numbers of the files. But you could not rely only on Liferay. This kind of aspect have to be addressed before Liferay on the entry point of the architecture. Use a web application firewall, for example, to create on this specific URL a throttling, a bandwidth throttling. Maintain a localized multi-language site is complex. Contents may require specific context knowledge to be translated. Google Translator does not have this knowledge. With 7.4, we use CLIF. I hope the spelling is right. CLIF standard to create an XML. To create an XML with the original content, with the content in the original language, and a placeholder to allow an external team, an external tool to translate it. The XML file looks like it's very simple. It contains the source element and the target part of the elements that will contain the translations. Obviously, as I could produce an XML for the translation company, I can import the translated CLIF file, and the new version with the translation will be added to Liferay. Translation could also be made on site in place. So I can, if I know French, or in my scenario, Italian, I can translate the information. If I have no time to complete it, I could save a draft, and all the drafts appear in this dashboard, and I'm able to complete my job later or delegate it to other people. Okay, continue to edit or delete. Another news of Liferay 7.4 is about background activities. One requested feature is the ability to know more about the scheduled job and the possibility to execute that job on demand. These jobs are all defined by code, implementing a scheduler listener. And you, as a developer, could implement a new one that will be listed here. For this job, you could know if it's a system, the next time it will run, if it is running or not, and you could run it on demand, launch it on demand. For some of these tasks are scheduled as start it X time unit after the portal is started. Now, for this kind of scheduled job, you could configure a cron tab expression, so not every X minutes, but this time, this hour, this time in this day. Dispatch triggers allow you to control and schedule a TL job inside Liferay. You know, Liferay implement a plugin for Talend and MuleSoft to simplify the use, to simplify Talend and Mule to consume headless API exposed by Liferay. Talend job have to be defined inside the Talend Studio. Liferay doesn't allow you to describe a Talend job. But a Talend job when compiled, becomes an autonomous Uber jar you could execute in different way. Here I can create a sample task. I can create a task. I can upload the talent jar into Liferay and define the scheduling of that job. The job is run by Liferay in a forked JVM, and for every trigger, every time the job is run, Liferay is able to collect the output and see, and you can see the history of your job and what goes wrong, what go successful, and other problem, and address all the problem. There are situations when running job inside Liferay is not a good solution, but other situations where there are simple task jobs or specific jobs that is better to execute inside Liferay, to control by Liferay, because you need the information on demand, or there are other logic you want it. This tool, dispatches tool, allow you to do that. These tasks are used by the commerce solution to talk with Salesforce and other legacy archives or software. Okay, let's go back to the slides and okay. In this track, I've explained only few of the features of the elements introduced by 7.4, and many of these features will be extended and improved in the next GA. You could learn about the 7.4 in the blog, and new releases will be published on the blog. I want to share an extra hint. Release by release, some framework has been extended to address more modularity. For example, the same service we could use to extend indexing activities are implemented on the core side with core logic. If you want to extend some Liferay functionality, search file containing contributor in the name. This file could help you to identify the extension point. If you are a marketplace developer or a developer implementing a custom solution for a customer, consider to make it a little extensible, because this could help you to extend in the future, or especially for marketplace element, helps other users to adopt your solution because your solution is configurable but extensible. Thank you very much for your attention, and there are questions. Let me see the questions you post during my speech. Okay, so I have a question related to DXP 7.4, when it will be released. As usual, if the timeline will be respected, it will be released in September or October, end of September. There are questions about MuleSoft integration. The feature is available since DXP 7.4 and Mule is available on DXP. No, I think it's available also on CA. So there are possibility to upload the jar in the talent tab using the one produced by MuleSoft. Sincerely, I don't use a Mule, so I haven't an answer now. Maybe I will post the answer in the via Twitter or in using the bootcamp hashtag. Another question is, in current version of Liferay, one can put and upload field on forms, but it's not possible to define a specific folder for uploads. It is possible in Liferay 7.4, not yet. Actually, the elements uploaded there are no way to define a folder. But if you feel an issue using issues.liferay.com, maybe it will be implemented as soon as possible. There is another question about cloud service integration. Okay, as you know, Liferay could be deployed, installed in bare metal, in virtual machines, or also in container. There are no limitation about the deployment devices. For example, if you consider the XP cloud solution, Liferay is deployed in the Kubernetes, and the needed resources, search engine, database, document store, are configured as a service in a cloud environment. From the document store point of view, we, in a cloud environment, historically support S3, but it doesn't mean we support every storage exposed itself as S3, but only the Amazon S3 for security reasons. With 7.3 DXP Service Pack 1, we support S3 on the IBM Cloud. So the IBM Cloud provides a file storage, expose itself as S3, and Liferay support it using S3 protocol. With 7.4, when Liferay is installed in Google Cloud Platform, you could use Google Cloud Storage as a document store. So there are different and new opportunity to use the cloud services and the elements provided by the cloud provider to enrich or as an element of Liferay architecture. This is very important because the cloud storage or the extra storage costs less than implement another storage like an FS or similar. Okay, we have a question about staging. Okay, staging is a powerful feature, powerful editorial feature. You could have local and remote staging. With the 7.4, staging could be also used for asset libraries. As you know, asset libraries is a special kind of site usable to collect contents, web content, not only web content, but VCM contents that can be consumed by different sites. Is a library, like the name is a library. So staging is continuously improved, releases by releases. And for example, in 7.4, you could publish from staging a single page. If you publish a child page, maybe a page at the 4th or the 5th level, you could avoid to export all the ancestral pages to have a single page publication experience, a real single page publication experience. Starting from 7.3, there are an alternative to local staging, It is this alternative is called publications. When you enable publication, you are able to create different publication experience, different publication scenarios. All the changes you made in a scenario are completed isolated from the other publication scenario. If you are a developer, you could think about Git version systems. In Git, you have the main branch, but you could create different branches that contains isolated changes. And when you are confident of what you have done in this branch is correct, you could merge it in the main branch. The same for the publication. You could see the changes, review the changes, roll back the changes, compare the changes. When you are confident that all is done in a suitable way, you could publish it to the publication, to the main scenario. Okay. Okay, there are some questions about development and integration. Okay, let me cite a famous film. The first rule with Liferay is to use Liferay. The second rule with Liferay is to use Liferay. The third rule, and so on. What I mean is that Liferay provides a framework, different framework, to simplify the development or the use of the product. From the development point of view, we have service builder, REST builder, development tool like Blade, archetype, prototype, archetype of the type of plugin you can create. For the use product point of view, we have the app builder. So there are more framework, many framework you could use to create a good experience with Liferay, to use Liferay. From the development point of view, you also have classes and utilities to manage different aspects of your coding experience. You have HTTP util, HTML util, param util, getter util, string util, validator, and I can continue for hours to list all the classes and the utilities. These tools are optimized and compliant with a security by design approach. So, why have you to reinvent the wheel? Why have you to include inside your bundles, libraries, or other things that Liferay already does? Most of you may ask me about upgrades. One of the problems of the upgrades are not related to Liferay, but how Liferay is used. If you, for example, put libraries into OSGI modules, Liferay that are not bundled into OSGI modules folders, maybe is not a Liferay problem, is a your deployment problem. Sometimes on project assessment, the John Wick inside me wants to get out because I know Liferay isn't perfect. I know Liferay has bugs. Okay, we hope few, but some bugs there are. But don't blame Liferay about the problem on performance, complexity, or upgrade if you use it in the wrong way. Upgrades is a problem, is a thing that make a customer to not jump to the next version of Liferay, to not upgrade, to stay in older version of Liferay. But if you use Liferay in the right way, if you learn how to use Liferay, upgrades or development or performance will be good. Okay, let me know if there are some other questions. Okay. Okay. There are. Okay. There are another question about the extra. No, I'm sorry, but the extra plugin is no more supported, and it connected to my previous answer. Uh, I know that there are situations when you have to customize Liferay because there are things you don't want. There are things that doesn't approach in the way you want. But uh, instead of rewrite Liferay aspect, create elements in side by side Liferay to have your experience with some isolation, to isolate your code, to isolate your changes, and not not introduce risks to the platform. So there are no more needs to create extract. If you don't want a bundle, a Liferay standard bundle, you can blacklist it. If you can blacklist a bundle, you can blacklist modules. And recreate or implement that modules in your own way, maybe in a fast and efficient way, and use it and don't change or compromise the Liferay stability.